Welcome everyone for the analysis of UPSC CSAT paper. In the beginning, let us briefly look into three important things. The first one, uh, what was the weightage of questions, for example, in terms of quant reasoning, particularly with respect to RC. Second thing which we will discuss is the pattern of the paper, and the third, of course, where or which areas did the questions largely come from. So we will start with the discussion on these things first. In terms of weightage, there were about 27 questions from RC, and that means that 50 plus questions were from quant. So if there is someone, or if you are someone who is planning to go purely on the basis of RC and completely skip this, this strategy would not work. Even if you were to attempt 27 questions, there are chances that you may go wrong in about 4 to 5 minimum. So you need to focus on quant definitely. Second would be the pattern. When it comes to RC, the level was average to tough. The number of passages were good, and a large number of questions were of the applied nature in terms of assumption and other things. And in quant, the questions were on expected lines. This part, of course, we will discuss once we discuss the trend. Now let us briefly go into the next slide and see what were the major trends. Now I've categorized the questions like this. This discussion would not be dependent on a particular set of the paper. So just have a look. Here I've given you simple let's say categorization of the questions, where did they come from, etc. So if you see, what I can definitely tell you is that around 10 questions, this is 10 questions, were simply common sense questions. You could have simply had a look at the question, and you don't need to know formulas or complex or do complex calculations. This, of course, we will see as we proceed. Then if you see here, there were some questions on reasoning, and except this alphabet mirror image concept, others were possible. Coding was easy, and other question was also easy. And then direction, there were 2 direction questions which were fairly simple. So about 14 questions is something which even if you do not what we traditionally call as mathematics, you would still hit those 14 questions. And out of the other questions, some questions were based on basic equations. They were fairly simple. When it comes to percentages, roughly about 8 questions could have been solved not from the percentage chapter, but by applying the concept of percentages. Numbers had decent weightage. Probability questions, as usual, were less, 1 or 2. There were questions from ages and calendars and clock, 1 question each roughly. So this is about the breakup of the paper. Okay, let us now start solving the questions. In the first segment, we will solve the questions which are purely based on common sense. You, irrespective of your background, I would not call them as these questions as mathematics questions. If you call them as mathematics questions, then your understanding of mathematics needs to be corrected. Let us start. See, Jay and Vijay spent equal amount of money. So we have Jay and we have Vijay. They spent equal amount of money to buy some pens and special pencils as if they need a gift of some whatever. Then Jay bought 3 pens and 5 pencils. So let us write it down. 3 pen, and 5 pencils. Okay. Then if you see Vijay, let me put Vijay here. Vijay, he bought 2 pens and 7 pencils. This is a very simple observation question. One pen goes down, from 3 we are going to 2, and 2 pencils go up. So 1 pen down is equal to 2 pencils up. Fairly simple question, right? So a pencil costs more. Okay, let's hold this. The price of pencil is equal. No, the price of a pen is 2 times that of the pencil. True. So you can see how simple this question was. So let's go to the next question. Again, a very simple question, and do not call this question as mathematics. See now, each of A and D is heavier than each of B, E and F. Since I don't know the exact weights, I can take any numbers, right? So it says each of A and D. So let me take A and D as 10 each. I'm taking any random number for the purpose of explanation. Each of these is heavier. So what I know is that they are heavier than B, E and F. So since I don't know, I'll take B, E, F as 5 each. Okay. So from this, see the question. Who is the heaviest among A, B, C, D, E? This is, once again, this is B, this is E, this is F. I definitely cannot make this out. Let's try the statement number 2. A is heavier than D but is lighter than C. So what I know is A is heavier. So since I'm taking D as 10, I will now make A as 15. And it says A is lighter than C. So there is another creature called as C who is heavier than even A. This person would be around 20. So now I have the relation. Can you see? Now I have a clear-cut relation. So it would be something like C, A, D. Then of course I don't know the relation between them, but I definitely know that C is highest. Okay, so that is the reason that I need both these equations to form my answer. As you can see, this is it can't even be called as reasoning question. With these kind of questions, you just need some practice, some introduction to these concepts, and these questions are then very straightforward. Let's go to the next question. This is again a very interesting question. See now, 7 books, okay, are placed side by side. So let me write them down. P, Q, R, S, T, U, V. Fine. Then it says R, Q and T have blue covers. Okay. So R, Q and T have blue covers and other books have red covers. Okay. Interestingly, I have these two combinations set up in my video explanation. Good. So I have covered the first part of the equation. Let's go to the second part of the equation. Only S and U are new books. Okay, so only S and U, this is new, this is new, and others are old. So let me put O, 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 O. Good. So second part of the equation is over. Let's form the third equation. P, R and S are law reports. Fine. So let's start. P is law, R is law, and S is law, right? And it says the rest are gazetteers. So let me put G, G, G and G. Now it says what? So my third equation is also over. Now since all the equations are formed, let us finally see the question. The question is, books of old gazetteers with blue covers are. So I need, see here, in terms of color, I need blue color. Then from here I need old, and from here I need gazetteers. Can you see? So I need this combination BOG. Just run through this combination. ROL not required. BOG definitely yes. BOL no, RNL no, BOG definitely yes. This gone and this is gone. So you can see I have only Q and T left. Fairly simple question, right? Q and T left. These questions just need again some introduction to these concepts and a calm head. When you're sitting in the exam, if you can maintain a calm head, these questions are fairly simple. So Q and T. Let's proceed forward. See now, again a very simple question. It says consider the two statements and see what is the question. Which day is the 14th of the given month? So this is a month. I need on 14th what is the day? That is all I need to find out. Let us see the statements. The last day of the month is Wednesday. So from 14th to the last day, see with last day it can, if it is Feb, it can be 28, it can be 30 or it can be 31. So it could be difficult. So this does not give me any conclusive information. The third Saturday of the month was the 17th day. So third Saturday. So here is the Saturday and this was 17th, right? And it says I need 14th. So let me put 16, 15, 14. Can you see? If Saturday is 17th, then 14th will be Wednesday. Correct? So statement 2 alone is sufficient. This is not required. Moreover, this is actually not helping me get the answer. So in this case, the answer would be B. Statement 2 alone is sufficient. Let's go to the next question. This is again, if you wish to solve it, it is a complex one. But if you wish to use common sense, it is a very simple question. See now, a biology class at high school predicted that a local population of animals will double the size in 12 years. Of course, what it means is that if in the year 2000 the population is 50, then in 2012 the population will be 100. Correct? Simple calculation. Now read the question. The population at the beginning of the year 2021 was estimated to be 50. Fine. So 2021 it was estimated to be 50. Then it says if P represents the population after n years. In this case, they are giving you a general formula. Then which of the following equation represents the model of the class of the population? See, one way is of course you form the complex formulations. Another way is I know it is 50. I know that in the year 2021 it is 50, and if I put n as 12, that is after 2033, it should be 100, right? That is all I need, and this is my P. This is my P in the 12th year, correct? So just substitute 2 and wherever you get 100, that is your answer. This is called a substitution method. What I'm doing now is, instead of doing this complex calculation, I am substituting the variables with numbers. So I'm replacing variables with numbers. See now, if I put 12 here, 12 5 is 60, 600. So this is gone. 12, 144. Definitely more than 100. Gone. 12 into 12, 2 to the power of 12 into 12. Definitely out. Right? See here now, if I put 12 here, 12 upon 12 will get cancelled. I get 15 to 2, which is 100. Can you see how simple this question is? So by using variable to number substitution, I've got this answer without doing any calculation. Answer is D. Now this is again a Firangi question. There is a comparison between Indians and Firangi. Let's start. In a group of 120 persons, 80 are Indians, rest are foreigners. So 120, 80 are Indians and rest are foreigners. Just out of practice, what will be the ratio? 2:1, correct? Then it says further, 70% in the group can speak English. Good. So 70 are Firangi, they can speak English. The number of Indians, so they want number of Indians. See now, see the options. So I need to maximize or minimize here. See now, it says 70 can speak English, correct? So let's say that all these 40 people can speak English. So how many are left? Out of 70, 40 go here, left is 30. So this is the one possible combination, or let us say the minimum we can have. But let us say if 39 speak English, 39 foreigners speak English, then this will become 31. If this becomes 38, then Amir Khan's team will have 32. Correct? That's why this would be 30 or more. Some of you might have marked 30 or less, but then it says number of Indians who can speak English. See, it will be 30 or more. So that is why the answer here will be D. The answer here will be D. Okay. This is again a very simple question. This is not even calculation intensive. Really a common sense question. Let us see now. You're given two identical sequences. So let's start. 8 becoming 4. So it is 0.5. Okay. See, 4 becoming 6. This is a 50% rise. How do we get 50% rise? By multiplying a number by 1.5. 10 to rise by 50% should become 15. 10 when raised by 50% becomes 15. How do we get this? 10 into 1.5. Correct? Similarly, 6 is becoming 15. Can you see 6 2s are 12 and half? So this is 2.5. Right? And that is how I get. I don't need to calculate others because see, the question only wants C. So do not go till here. It will be waste of time. The time that we actually don't have in the exam. Let's start. So here I will need to multiply this by 0.5. Then this by 1.5 and this by 2.5. That is how I'll get my C. Correct? This is the sequence, that is 8 is to be multiplied by 0.5, then into 1.5, then into 2.5. Similarly, so the multiplication that I will have is 5. Can you see? Into 0.5 into 1.5 into 2.5. For the time being, let us ignore these points. Okay, so I'll have 5 into 5, which is 25. There is already a 25. Correct? So 25 into 25 we know is 625. So I get 6.25. I'm bringing the decimal back into 1.5. Even if I ignore these, I know 6 into 1.5 will be somewhere around 9. Correct? 6 into 1.5 will be somewhere around 9. 6 plus 3. So my answer is 9.35. So now you can see how simple this calculation is. Ideally you can do this entirely in your head. 5 5s are 25, 25 into 5, 25 into 25, 625. Okay, then into 15, 6 into 1.5. So the answer would be 9.35. Definitely it won't touch 32. Correct? So with some practice, this question can be solved directly without too much of tension or stress or calculations. Oh, very good. A matrix question. If only they could play matrix in the exam. Let's see. Following is a matrix of certain entries. Okay. See now 7b. See in all these rows we have A, B and C. Correct? C, B, A. So I should have B here. There has to be a B here. So these two will simply go off. Then see now. 10 minus 7 is 3. 9 minus 3 is 6. 13 minus 10 is 3. This is probably one of the simplest series questions or matrix questions that has come over the last few years. Otherwise the questions involved some kind of multiplication, and this is a simple subtraction question. Now if you're saying that you can, you find subtraction difficult or subtraction difficult, then the way you are studying is you need to understand the pattern of UPSC and then study according to the pattern of UPSC. This is again hardly any quantitative aptitude question. This is simple subtraction. Fine, let's go to the next question. Okay, the answer would be C. Next question. And this is again this one could be tricky. You know, doing this, I call it common sense, but then, uh, you know, this will need some practice. This question will need some practice to get it directly. Let's start. Now, PQR are on a straight line. Okay, my pen is not working. Yeah. PQ and R are on a straight line such that PQ is to QR is 3 is to 5. Definitely, we all would have done this. This is where we all would have reached. So this is one possible combination. But there is one more combination where Q and R, this is 5, Q and R, this is 5, and Q and P, can you see this is 3. Now if you see Q and R is 5, correct, and Q and, okay, let me put P here, and Q and P and Q and P, this part is 3, correct. So N can take actually two possible values. Okay, so the answer in this case would be 2. The answer would be 2. This was probably the simplest question of the exam. Of course, it says cubical vessel, so let me put 1. The volume becomes 1 meter cube, which is 10 to the power of 6 in terms of milliliters. The simplest question of this exam. Now we reach to again the questions on directions. So let's start. Such questions were discussed and practiced in the class. Fairly simple questions. A bank employee drives towards south. So let this be the point. Okay, let's call it X. Then it says it drives 10 kilometers towards south. Then from here and turns to her left. So she turns to her left and drives another 20 kilometers. So this is 20. Then she turns again left. See, 2 left turns will become a U-turn. So it goes up to 40 kilometers. Correct? This is 40. Then she turns to her right. Now she turns to her right and drives another 5 kilometers. Then she turns to her right again. See, 2 rights will again make a U-turn. So she is basically taking a U-turn and driving back 30. Can you see 30? 30. This is 10. So this is her, let's say, ending point. Now this we can see this is 5 kilometers. Sorry, 20 kilometers. And from here we can see this is 5 kilometers. Right? So the shortest distance will be 25 kilometers. Pretty simple question. Very simple question. This one was a good question. This question requires some knowledge, a very basic knowledge of trigonometry and geometry. So let's start. Because the reason I said trigonometry and geometry is because unlike other questions where they would ask, a Pythagorean triplet, here they're asking the angle. That's why this question is actually a good question. So let's start. A woman runs 12 kilometers towards her north. So this is the starting point. Okay, let's say this is the starting point. She would run 12 kilometers towards her north and then 6 kilometers towards her south. So she'll come back here. I don't know why she's doing this, but 6 kilometers towards south. Oh no, this will complicate the figure. Okay, anyways, then 8 kilometers towards her east. So she goes 8 kilometers towards her east. Then in which direction is she from her starting point? This is of course the starting point. And as we can see, this is her, let's say, final destination. Now this is 12 and this part is 6, right? So this part will be 12 minus 6, which is equal to 6, correct? So if distance were asked, if this distance is required, it will be 8 square plus 6 square, which will be 64 and 36, which is equal to 100, square root of which will be 10. So this distance will be 10, but they are not asking the distance. Can you see? An angle, they want to know the angle. Now and that is this is one perspective which makes this question a very good question. Now see here. Okay, let us take it like this. Let us say that both these sides are equal. Okay, so this is 6, this is 6, the angle will be 45 degrees. Can you see? But let us say I am extending this to 8. Okay, now what will happen? This will bend towards this side, correct? So this will become greater than 45 and this angle will be less than 45, correct? This angle will be less than 45. So the answer here would be an angle less than 45 north of east. This we know, this is northeast, definitely, correct? So from here it goes north and then east. So this is northeast, and this angle is less than, because we have to find from the starting point. So this angle is less than 45. Can you see? Probably one of the this will be the second most good or applied question, a very good question indeed. Okay, let's proceed forward. Now there are two classes. This is again a common sense question. You don't really need pen and paper for this. Just let us just start. No, you need pen and paper, but you don't need to do any calculation. Let's start. It says there are two classes, A and B. So there is A and there is B, and having 25 and 30 students respectively. So we have 25 here and we have 30 here. Now in class A, the highest score is 21 and the lowest is 17. So the range of A is from 17 to 21. Okay. Then in class B, the highest score is 30 and the lowest is 22. So range of B is from 22 to 30. Good. So this is the information that we have from the question. Now 4 students are shifted from class A to B. See, remember the question is asking about averages. And what is the formula for average? If there are 3 numbers 1, 2, 3, the average would be 1 plus 2 plus 3, sum of the numbers by number of entries, right? This would be 6 upon 3, which is equal to 2. Now observe here what happens when I add a new number. Now I'm adding 1. I'm only adding 1 to the series. So what will be the sum? 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus the new number divided by 4. So it becomes 7 by 4. Can you see? And this is definitely less than 2. We don't need to do exact calculation. But what you can understand is that if you bring in a smaller number, if you bring in a number which is less than the original average, the whole average will go down. It has gone beyond or below 2 now. This is what this question expects you to understand. See now, so when 4 students are shifted, now since let us say when the 4 students are shifted, and average, I'm just assuming that average will be somewhere here and average of this will be somewhere in the middle. So when I bring 4 students here whose average is less, let us say average, I'm just taking a random number, is 19, and let us say the average of this is 25. Now when as I showed you here, when I bring 4 students with average of 19, this whole average will go below 25. Definitely it will go below 25. So the average score of class B will definitely decrease. This is true. See now, the average of class A will definitely increase. Now this we cannot say because we don't know the actual score of these numbers. Okay, it's saying will definitely increase. Now it will increase depending on whether the larger values are transferred or smaller values are transferred. So it can increase or decrease. So this goes wrong here and the answer would be 1. This, if you are familiar with the concepts of averages, this is a fairly simple question. Otherwise, you might struggle a bit with this with the second point particularly. The first point should be easy to get. Second point, some of you might struggle. So with some practice into averages, this can be this can be attempted. Let's go to the next question. These questions were done in the class. Now we know that the rule for 3 or for these numbers 2, 3, 7, 8, the cyclicity is 4, right? They repeat in the cycle of 4, correct? What is the power of first power of 2? 2, then 4, then 2 cube, 2, 4, 8, 16, then 32. So repetition starts after a cycle of 4. This is true for all these numbers 2, 3, 7, 8. So in such numbers, what we do is we will take the power, which is 2019, and divide this by 4. To simplify this, you can simply take this as remainder of 19 divided by 4, which will be, 4 will go, that is 4 into 4 is 16, so it will go, 16 will go perfectly. So what will be the remainder? 19 minus 16, which is 3, right? So eventually this, in terms of remainder, this will be reduced to 3 cube, which is 27. Now when 27 is divided by 10, we get 7 as the remainder. So for those who are not familiar with this remainder theorem, this will seem a difficult question, but those who are familiar with the remainder theorem, they know that this is a straightforward question. Okay, just for practice, what will be the remainder if I take 3 to the power of 2018? Try to give me the answer. What will be the remainder if I take 3 to the power of 2018? Fine, let's go to the next question. This is one tricky question. The divisibility test, there are multiple ways or multiple divisibility tests for 7. One is to do with the 5, another one is to do with where we double the units digit. But this is one question which you should not attempt in exam in the first round. Definitely not in the first round. The answer is 6. Using divisibility test of 7, you can try this out. But if exam is going on, try not to hit this question. Let's go to the next question. This is again a good question. It says integers are listed from 7000 to 1000. Then how many integers is the sum of the digits 10? See, whenever you get these questions, sum and digits, like we see here, we have these digits 70000, and they're asking for the sum. Then the questions become easier. Let us see how. So 700, we have to start from here. It says the sum of the integers should be 10. So we go from minimum to maximum. Just remember this simple directional rule. We go from minimum to maximum. So first such number will be 703, correct? 7 plus 3 is 10. Then we have to split this 3. So next such number will be, say this 0 will become 1 when we go to the next higher number. So 7 plus 1 is 8, 2 will be left here, correct? Next higher number would come when I reach 7 plus 2, which is 9, and I'll get 1 here, correct? Next higher number would be 7, 3. 7 plus 3 is already 10, I'll get 0 here. 7, 4 becomes 11, so this will not work, correct? So in the 700s, I have only 4 such numbers. Let us go to 800. 802 will be the first number. In the next, I have to increase this, so this becomes 811, correct? Then next I have to again increase this, so this becomes 820, 10. 8 plus 3 is 11, so that will not work, so I get 3 here, okay? Then third number 901, 9 plus 1 is 10, and then one more will be 910. So in total these are the numbers I have: 4 plus 3 plus 2, 4 plus 3 is 7, 7 plus 2 is 9. So the answer would be 9. Fairly simple one, right? Answer would be 9. These questions, when it comes to sums and digits, they are actually a very simple type of questions, and if you have practiced, you will never get them wrong. But if you are doing these questions for the first time in exam hall, you will struggle. Then you will definitely struggle. Let's go to the next question. This is a slightly tricky one, because directly they have not given the numbers. Just a minute. So the numbers have not been directly given, but let us just run through the question. It says the difference of a 2-digit number. Okay, why the pen is not working? Yeah. Difference of a 2-digit number and the number obtained by interchanging the positions is 54. See, the normal rule for this is we of course take 10x plus y, and when we interchange the digits we get 10y plus x, and it says the difference, right? So difference will be 9x minus 9y, or 9 of x minus y. This will be the difference, and this says this is 54. Okay, now based on this we can get the numbers. The numbers that will come out is 17, and its reverse will be 71. Both these numbers will be valid. Another would be 28, and of course its reverse 82. Then third number will be 39, 193. See, again we go from 1 to 2 to 3, and the next number will be 60. See, even 60 will be there, because 60 minus 06 will be 54. Correct? So these are the possible numbers. So it says the difference between the two digits of the numbers can be determined. Yes, 9 of x minus y is equal to 54. So x minus y is equal to you can see here, right? So it can be determined. It will be 6. Fairly simple one, right? And then sum of the two digits of the number can be determined only if the product of the two digits is known. This is also correct, because once I know the product, for example, if I know the product is 7, then I can get the answer that it is 17. Correct? If the product is 16, I can get the numbers. Okay, but see, the challenge here is only even if they give me sum of the digits, for example, sum of the digits is 8, 7 plus 1, even then it works. So this only keyword or only word here makes the question tricky. But if you remove this only, this statement is correct. Okay, so this will be a tricky one. Let us wait for the UPSC key, but answer here would be both 1 and 2. Both 1 and 2. This is again a very simple applied common sense question. Let us see now. When a certain number is multiplied by 7, the product entirely comprises only ones, right? So it is something like 1 1 1 1 1 1. This is what we get the product as. Let us see. Now if you see, so I have to multiply these 7 by these. Okay, now since all the last digits are 3 and 7 3s are 7 into 3 is 7 into 3 is 21, so I get my last digit as 1. So using the first digit, I cannot eliminate any of these numbers. So let me now take two digits, right? So the two digits are 13, here it is 23, then in the option C it is 83, then option D it is 73. Now I have to multiply this by 7 and see which one gives me two digits as 11, because the sequence is 1 all. See, I'm just of course I can make equation and solve it, but here using options is much better and faster. So let us start. 7 threes are 21. 2 will go carry, 7 plus 1, no, 9. So you will not get double 1 here. So let's take 23. 7 threes are 21. 2 goes carry, 7 to the 14. 14 plus 2, again we won't get double 1 here. See, here also you won't get. Try this one into 7. 7 threes are, let's actually try this one out. 7 threes are 21. 2 goes carry. 7 sevens are 49. 49 plus 2, 51. 5 goes carry. So you can see that amongst these, all these numbers fail to give me 1 at this place, tens place. So all of them are wrong, and the answer is D. Fairly simple one, right? Answer is D. Now let's see this question. This is again, this is probably one question where you can do it directly, or you can also use formulas of permutation and combination. So let's start. See, they have given us these digits. Now, how many distinct numbers greater than 30,000? So clearly the first digit has to be 3, right? Then what are the other 2 digits, or what are the other possible digits? These are the other possible digits. Can you see? Now, we need combination of these, because all the combinations of these are valid. Correct? Because all these combinations will be greater than 30,000. Correct? So this part, in short, is fixed. Correct? So I have 4 digits here. Fine. So let's take 4 digits. 4 factorial by, since there are 2 repetitions, 2 factorial, this will be 24 upon 2 into 2, correct, which will give me 24 upon, sorry, first this will give me 12 and this will give me 6. So my answer would be 6. The answer would be 6. Okay, let's go to the next question. This is now we are entering into numbers, of course, and this is more of a theoretical question where if your concepts of numbers are good, you will not go wrong here. Otherwise, you might find this question difficult. Let us see. The first one is, see, the sum of 5 consecutive integers can be 100. Is it possible? Yes. See, if I just take 25 times, I will get 100. Correct? Now, how can I write this as 20? This I will make less than 20, so this I will make more than 20. This 2 less than 20, so this will be 2 more than 20, and sum of these 5 numbers will be 100. Fairly simple one. Let's go to the second option. The product of 3 consecutive natural numbers can be equal to their sum. There is one such combination, 1, 2, 3. See, normally this would not work, right? Because 2, 3, 4, if you just take the multiplication, 4 3 is 12, 12 is 24, 24, what will be sum? 4 plus 3 7, 7 plus 2 9. This will not work. So, had you just thought that let us start by 1, let us just start by 1, 1, 2, 3, you might have landed on this. So, this to solve this question, either your concepts should be good, or if you're able to think that let us start with 3 consecutive numbers, let us start with 1, then you'll get this answer. So in this case, the answer would be C, both 1 and 2. Both 1 and 2. Now, see this question. This is again a very good question. We can do the actual calculations, or we can use percentage method to simplify this. Let us see how. A boy plays with a ball. A boy plays with a ball and he drops it from the height of 1.5 meter, okay, which is 150 centimeter. Every time the ball hits the ground, it bounces back to attain a height of 4/5 of the previous height. See, 4 by 5, if you remember the percentage table, is 80%. Correct? 4 by 5 is 80%. Now the ball does not bounce back further if the previous height is less than 50 centimeter. Can you see from 150 it is becoming less than 50, basically 1/3, right? So 1/3 is what we need. 1/3 is 33%. Can you understand this? 1/3 is 33%. See now, so if I take original height to be 100, if I reach 33%, the ball will stop bouncing, correct? And with each bounce only 80% comes back. So after first bounce I'll have something around 80, then second bounce will give me 80% of 80, which is 64. 80 is a 64. Third bounce, 64 into 8, right? 8 4s are 32, so 2, 8 6 are 48, plus 3 5 1 12, 51.2. that will be the answer. Okay, after this, no, 8 5s are 40, somewhere around 40 it will go, then 8 4s are 32. Now you can see, now it has gone below 33%. Can you see? So this is the first bounce, second bounce, third bounce, fourth bounce, fifth bounce, and I get my answer, right? So whenever we are dealing with percentages, we do the advantage we have while dealing with percentages is that we don't have to take this number 150 centimeter. Otherwise I have to do 150 into 80, then whatever is the product, that 150 into 80 into 80. So this calculation is slightly difficult, but if I go with percentages I can eliminate the original numbers, because 150 to 50 is 33%. So I've already taken this as 33%, and that is how, using percentage method, I can directly get this answer, or I can simplify the calculation. Right, let's go to the next one. See now, a student appeared in 6 papers. The maximum marks are same. So what I know till now is that there are 6 papers. The maximum marks are same for each paper. Okay, his marks in these papers are in the proportion. So this is the proportion which is given. Now to simplify this, I'll take this as 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Of course, we have discussed in the class that whenever we have something in series, whenever they give us a proportion, we have to take their sum. That will be the first thing which we have to do. And since they are consecutive, see 5 and 6 and 7 are consecutive numbers or in sequence, their addition becomes easier. Why? 10 plus 50, sorry, 100 plus 50 would be 150. 60 plus 90 would also be 150. 80 plus 70 would also be 150. So this sum becomes 150 plus 150 plus 150, which is 450. So the summation of these is 450. So this, since I've taken marks as 50, 60, 70, 80, this marks that student has attained is 450. Then this 450 is 60%. See here, 450 is 60%. So I need 100%. One way is, of course, you do into 10 into 100 by 60, which is 10 by 6, which is 5 by 3. Or can you see 450 I can factorize as this, 150 plus 150 plus 150, and 60 is 20. This method we have discussed in class. So if I add two more parts, I'll get 100. So I have to add two 150s, that is 300. So this can be directly written as 750. I can directly write this as 750, correct? So now total marks is 750. See now, this total marks, it says this is what I've attained. The total marks for this person would be 750. Now in how many number of papers did he score less than 60% of the maximum marks? So now I need to find maximum marks for each paper, and since they are same, it will be, let us say the maximum marks is x. So for 6 subjects it will be 6x, since they are all same. So what will be x? 750 upon 6. Do not do this actual calculation. Why? See, because we have to find in how many he scored less than 60%. So this is the total or maximum marks for each subject. Let us say S1. This is actually 125, but let's not calculate this. Why? Because I need to find in how many he scored less than 60%. So I can take this as 60 by 100. Okay, 10 and 75. So now I have to find in how many subjects he scored less than 75. That would be 50, 60 and 70. 3 subjects. Correct? 3 subjects. Now if you actually wish to do this calculation, what would you do? 750 upon 6 is 125. Correct? Then you need to find 60% of this. Then you have to do again 60% and you will get back 75. So why to do this double calculation? Correct? So in these exams or in competitive exams, one thing which you should remember is that if you in certain stages, if you do not do the final calculation, they will get cancelled sometime in future. There is a very high chance that these numbers will cancel out and give you some even number, or in the sense some full easy number. So in this case the answer would be 3. Now this is a very simple question. If you this is a very simple question in short. Let's start. Now given that proteins correspond to 16%, you don't need to read anything else. 16% and the water is 70%. Okay, so protein is 16%, water is 70%. Okay, what is the protein, water and dry elements? Yeah, dry elements would be how much? See, this is 86, and since total has to be 100, dry element is 14. Correct? Now if both proteins and other dry elements correspond to p%, so now what they are saying is that this plus this is p%, this plus this is p%, which is what? 30%. Then what is the central angle of the sector corresponding in the pie diagram? If you are familiar with pie diagram, we know that 100%, as you can see in this circle, is 360. 100% is 360. Then what will be 30%? It will be 36 into 3, which is, it will come as 108 degrees. Fairly simple question, right? 6 3s are 18. So whichever is ending in 8, that will be the answer. You don't even need to calculate full 108 because 6 into 3. So the number would be ending in 8. Okay. Let's go to the next question. In a class, 60% of students are from India. This is a good question. See now. So this is a class. It says 60% students are from India. So let us say there are a total of 100 students and 60 are from India. Then it says 50% of the students are girls, right? So 50 is the number of girls. Now if 60% are from India, then Firangi or foreigners would be how much? 40. Okay. Now see, if 30% of the Indian students are girls, 30% of 60 will be how much? 6 into 3, 18. Fairly simple calculation, right? Then what will be left here? 60 minus 18 is how much? 42. Correct? Now see, this is the Indian girls. Let's call this as Indian girls. And this is of course Indian boys. Correct? Now since total number of girls is 50, right, of which 18 are Indian girls, then how many will be foreign girls? 32. Correct? So this will be 32. So I'll get 8 boys here. So there are 8 foreign boys. Then the question is, what percentage of foreign students are boys? It will be 8 upon 40, right? 1 by 5, 20%. So this is a, yeah, 20%, correct. Answer D. This is probably, I did tell you, right? Like some of the questions from percentages, numbers were on the expected lines. So this is one of the questions which is on the expected lines. Next question. A man completes 7/8 of his job in 21 days. Okay, good. So 7 by 8 is completed in 21 days. Okay. Now, in how many days will he complete the full job? See, full job will be 8 by 8. So he needs 1 by 8 extra. If 7 by 8 is 21, what is 1 by 8? 1 by 8 is 3. Correct. So if I add 3 here, which is 24, this is the total job. This is when he completes the job. So total job, let's say, is 24. The next point is, how many more days will it take him to finish the quantum of job if the quantum of job is increased by 50%? So 50% of 24 is 12, and it is saying the job is increased by 50%. So new job is 36. The new job is now 36 days. Now 21 has already been done. So what will be left? 15 days. Correct? It will take 15 more days. So this is a fairly simple, probably a very simple percentage question. You need to do, can you see how simple the calculations are? You need to take out very simple percentages and then do a addition. This is something, or this is one question which can be, with sufficient practice, it can be done in head. Right? 7 by 8 is 21. So 8 by 8 is 24. 50% up is 36. 36 minus 21 is 15. So, number of calculations are fairly simple. Now this is again another percentage question. You can see we have already seen. Can you see? This is a percentage question. Yeah, this is also a percentage question. Okay. So from here, this is one percentage question, second percentage question, third percentage question, fourth percentage question, fifth percentage question, and then again we have a percentage question. See, whenever there is increase or decrease of a quantity, we use the standard. This is called as percentage table, and this is what I've been using in these all these questions to make my life easier. Now, whenever you have a standard increase and decrease, percentage table makes life easy. How can you do it normally? Now, see, if the price of an article is decreased by 20%, so this will become 0.8, and it says the new price is increased by 25%, 1.25. Now 125 into 8 is actually, or 1.25 into 0.8 is 1. So you can see there is effectively no change, or there is 0% change. You can also get this by doing the percentage tables. Okay, because see, 1 by 4 is and 1 by 5 is 20%. So 1 by 4 up, 1 by 5, 1 by 4 up, 1 by 5 down, they'll cancel out and you'll get 1. So net result will be 0% change. So this is a fairly simple question if you're familiar with the percentage table. Again we get one more question from the percentage table. Can you see? Now P scored 40 marks less in an examination. Let us first do it by normal method. So P scored 40 marks more. Sorry. So this is P, this is Q. It says P scored 40% marks, and if Q's score is 10% less, so Q is less by 10%, and the 10% is equal to 40, so 100% will be 400. So my P will be 400, and since this Q is 40 less, can you see, this will be 360. Fairly simple, right? 360. Shortcut method of this is 10% is 1 by 10. So 1 by 10 up will lead to 1 by 9 down. 1 by 9 is to be multiplied with 40. So 9 4s are 36, 360. So using both these methods, you can do this, or you can solve this question. Again, a percentage question. So you can see how many questions have actually come from percentages. That is why I used to stress in the class that if you use common sense and percentages, almost more than about 20 questions can be handled just by these two, using your common sense practice and percentages. So let's start. Now in this case we have to find fastest run scorer, which is basically nothing but the strike rate. Now this is the first inning, this is the second inning. Now this is runs and these are the number of balls. So what was the total run scored by A in the first innings? How much is it? So it will come as 75, 61 plus 14. What is the total number of balls? 99 plus 76. This will become 175. Correct. Then what will it be for B? 50 plus 5 is 55. Okay, let me write small now. 55 plus, can you see, 85 plus 12, so 7 and 9, 97. Correct. This will become 97. Then next will be 15 plus 20, which is 35. 35 divided by 75 plus 50 is 125. Okay. The next one will be 13 plus 12, 25 divided by 105. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next question. This is one question which requires simple addition followed by some percentage calculation, or using some logic to, if you use some logic, you can actually avoid the calculations. So let's get started. See, the question demands you to find the fastest run scorer. This is basically the strike rate. How do we get the strike rate? Number of runs scored by number of balls taken. Fairly simple, right? Now let's see for A, B, C and D. These are the two innings, right? So total runs for A I can get easily, right? It would be 75. Then what will be the number of balls taken by this guy? See, 99 plus 76, 175. Now in this case it will be for the B, the number of runs will be 5 and 50, which is what, 55. Then number of balls faced will be 5 plus 2, 7 and 97. Let me rub this. Now for C it will be 15 plus 20, which is 35, divided by 75 plus 50, 125. Yeah. And for D it would be 13 plus 12, 25. Then 55 plus 50, 105. Can you see? No, 55 plus 50 is 105. Yeah. Now for these two, see, these the last two entries can be easily struck off, because see, this is around 1 by 4, 25%, very low. Again 35, 35 is 70, 70 by 105. Again around between 3 to 4, around 20% or so, 20 to 30% or so. Again it can be easily struck off. You can easily remove this also just by observing the numerator and denominators. Can you see here it is 55? Now in both these cases the numerator is less while the denominator is actually more. So there is no way that the strike rate of C and D can be greater than B. So the question left is between A and B. One way is you actually calculate the strike rates. See, A and B, you actually calculate the strike rates. B is 55 upon 97. Second way is, if you can see this percentage table here, you can use the concepts from this to simplify your calculation. Now if I divide this by 55, I'll get 1, and this will be a little less than 2, something less than 2, right? And 75 twos is 150. So if I divide this number by 75, I'll get 1 by something greater than 2. Now if you see here, as the numerator increases, can you see, as the numerator increases, the percentage goes down. Now this is easily known from the percentage table. So in this case, as the numerator increases, the percentage goes down, and in terms of numerator, a is greater than b. So in terms of percentage, b will be greater. So you can see, without doing too many calculations, I've got my answer as b. I've got my answer as b. Let's go to the next question. This is again a very good question. This is slightly calculation intensive, but with some smart work, one can get answer for this question. Let us start. It says a person X from a place A and another person Y from place B. So I have A, B, then the person is X and Y. Okay. And they start out at the same time towards each other. So they are walking towards each other. Okay. The places are separated by a distance of 15 km. Okay. So this is the next information I have. That the distance is 15 km. Now X walks with a uniform speed of 1.5. So speed of X is uniform at 1.5. So this is done. While Y walks with a uniform speed of 1 km per hour in the first hour, with a uniform speed of 1.25 in the second hour, 1.5 in the third hour. So basically he is walking something like this: 1.25, 1.5, hold on, 1.50, 1.75, 2.0, 2.25. This is how B will be walking. Now in this case, if you see, one way is, of course, we do the typical calculations, take the number of hours, take the variables. Second way is, see, whenever you have question like this which are calculation intensive, UPSC has a tendency to give you clues through options. Let us try this once. If it doesn't work, then we'll do the actual calculation. Now the first option says they take 5 hours to meet. So let me assume that they meet in 5 hours. So what is the distance traveled by A in 5 hours? It would be 1.5 into 5, which is 7.5. Correct. So A will be somewhere here, halfway. Now luckily, see, they meet midway. So in real exam, if you can directly assume that both of them are true. But let us not do that. This is 7.5. Let us calculate the distance which will be traveled by B. Then we'll get to know whether they will actually meet in 5 hours or not. So this is the first hour, second hour, third hour, fourth hour, 5 hour. Okay. So I have to add these distances. Let me get rid of this. Okay. Now see, 2 plus 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is my 6. Now see here, what do I get? 7.25, sorry, 0.75 plus 0.25 is 1. Then I have 0.5 extra, so this becomes 1.5. So net I'll get 6 plus 1.5, which is 7.5. Luckily for me, this has worked out. So both will have traveled 7.5 kilometers in 5 hours, and definitely they will meet midway. So you can see, by using options, I have really made my life easier. Let us go to the next question. This is महंगाई का ज़माना, petrol and diesel. Let's start the question. From January 1, 2021, the price of petrol on mth day of the year, see, this is the formula for petrol. So let me write this down. 80 plus 0.1 m. Then what is the formula for diesel? So now formula for diesel is, can you see this, 69 plus 0.15 N. On which date in the year 2021 are the prices of the two fuels equal? Okay, so basically I have to equate this number with this number. And see one more information here, that this m varies only till 100, after which it becomes constant. Okay, so for this I need to know that will m cross ever cross 100 or not. Now this can be easily inferred or understood from my calendar. So since all the dates are in May, I will write down January, February, March, April, because these 4 months have passed. Now January we know has 31 days. Let us assume, or we know that this year Feb has 28 days, March again has 31 days, and April has 30 days, right? So sum of this, see this one will come here, this one will get added here, so this gets converted to 30, this becomes like this. Now addition becomes easier, it becomes 120, correct? Or you can actually use pen and paper and add them up, but otherwise this will become 120. So what I know is that this m and n both have already reached 120. In case of m, since m will not go beyond 100, we can find this value. So this value will be 80 plus 0.1 into 100, which is equal to 80 plus 10, which is equal to what, 90. Can you see? This will be 90. Now let's start with this one. Now we need to find n. Okay, now on which date are the both prices equal? So whenever I get 90 for diesel price, that will be my answer. Now since I already have the numbers and I know till April I have already got 120, I can go from options backwards, and the best number for calculation is 20th May, because I'll get 20 here and total number of days will be 140. So 30, so till April 30th 120 days are over, and by May 20th I have 20 more days, a total of 140 days. So this will be 69 plus 140 into 0.15, right? So I can take this as 14, I'm doing only the calculation part. 14 into 14 plus 14, 14 14s are 196, 196 plus 14, 0, 10 0, no 9 10 1, and this. So this will become 21. Can you see how I simplify this calculation? Ignore decimal for some time. This becomes 14 into 15, 14 into 15. So there are two ways to do this. We can do 15 into 15, 15 square minus 1, minus 15, or 14 square plus 14. Both will give us the same number. Okay, so let us see. 14 into 14 is 196, 196 plus 14, so 64, 1 will go carry, this becomes 1, and 210, 0 will get taken away by the decimal. So this will become 69 plus 21, which is 90. So fortunately for me, this clicked and I get my answer. See, understand, UPSC does not expect you to be a calculator in the exam. Okay, so they usually will not give something like 139 into, that is, suppose I were to take it as 19th May, my total n in that case will become 120 plus 19, which is 139. So in this calculation here, it will become 69 plus 139 into 0.15, UPSC does not expect you to do calculations like this in the exam. Um, UPSC needs people who are smart enough to come up or solve problems using, let us say, applied knowledge. They are not looking for calculators. So, using by that knowledge itself, you could have guessed that this will be 20th May. If instead of 120, it was 119 here, I would have gone for the 21st May now. I would have gone for 21st May because that would have made it 140. That will make calculation simple. And that is how these competitive exams are designed. Okay, so let's go to the next question. See, now a person P asks his three friends as to how much money he had. Okay, now X replied, if you give me 40 rupees, then Y will have half as much as Z. Okay, so X, a person P is asking one of his three friends X. So it says if Y gives me 40, so Y minus 40 is equal to half of Z, Z minus 2, which implies 2Y minus 80 is equal to Z, which implies 2Y minus Z is equal to 80. This is my equation 1. See, now we have come to segments where we have to form very simple basic equations and get our answer. Okay, now so this is my first equation. Let us form the second equation. Now it says if Z gives me 40, then three of us will have the equal amount. This is interesting. So we have X, Y, Z. If Z gives me 40, so I have to deduct 40 from Z. So this 40 will come here, correct? This 40 will be transferred here. Then all three of them will be equal. Can you see? I have this relation. Now since my equation 1 is in terms of Y and Z, I will pick this equation. Okay, so from this equation, what I can get is Y is equal to Z minus 40, which implies minus Y. I'll bring Y here and take 40 to the other side. Minus Y plus Z is equal to 40. I can write down this equation here. 2Y minus Z is equal to 80. This is equation 1. This is equation 2. Just add them up. Can you see how simple equations are asked in the exam? At times in many places or books that you learn, they will make you solve very complex equations, which at times, as you have seen in almost all the questions, solving those questions or solving those equations excuse me, is not required or not demanded by this exam. So just add this up. I'll get Y is equal to 120. And you see, now from this equation I have Y is equal to 120. Now interestingly, okay, if Y is 120, then Z minus 40 is equal to 120, which implies Z is equal to 160. So my Z is 160. Okay, then X plus 40, can you see, X plus 40 is equal to 120, which implies X is equal to 80. Okay, so I now have the values of X, Y and Z. Now what is the total amount of money that these three have? See, this is the total amount of money would be 120 plus 80, which is what, 200, plus 160, which is 360. See, I have my answer as 360. I have my answer as 360. Now let's go to the next question. Now if an objective type of test of 90 questions, this is our typical prelims question. 5 marks are allotted for every correct answer and 2 marks are deducted for every wrong answer. So 90 is the total number of questions. I have the sequence as plus 5 minus 2. This is pretty, kind of like our UPSC, where we have 100, we have plus 2 and minus 1/3. Okay, so let me get rid of this first. Okay, now the question says, after attempting all the 90 questions, so he has attempted all the 90 questions, no question has been left out. Okay, so if all the questions were right, he would have received 450 marks. Okay, but you see, he has received 387 marks. Okay, now let us see how he got, or what was his mistake, or how do we get the negative marking scheme. Now whenever one question is wrong, let's say when one question is wrong from 90, if one question is wrong, he will first lose these 5 marks, right? 5 minus 5, and then also 2 marks will be deducted, minus 2. So total loss from 450 is 7 marks. Can you see? Total loss from 450 is that of 7 marks. So out of 90 attempted, if he answers 89 correctly, how much will he get? 450 minus 7, which is how much? 443. So to get total number of wrong answers, what we will do is we will subtract this 487. What we get is 3, 10, 4, 63. So in short, he has lost a total of 63 marks. Now for one wrong attempt, he loses 7. So for 63, how much will he lose? 9. So a total of 9 wrong answers were marked by him. Okay. See, had they said that we don't know the number of questions he has attempted, then this question would have become very difficult. But since all 90 have been attempted, that makes answering this question slightly easier. But a good question. This was a good question. Next question is clock question. Normally in clock, from the perspective of clock, this is a typical a difficult question, because they have given very close answers. They want us to find 180 degrees here around 7. Now there are straightforward formulas for this. The answer is actually 7:05 27 minutes. So it is between 7:05 and 7:10. Refer your notes or any standard book. This was a typical standard question, slightly calculation intensive, but a standard question. Let's go to the next one. This one again involves some reasoning and thinking. Joseph visits a club on 5th day, then Harsh visits on 24th day, while Sumit visits on 9th day. So I have 5, 24 and 9. This is of course an LCM problem, and the LCM of these will be 5, 24 and 9. The LCM will be 360. It has come to almost a year, right? We know a year has how much? 364 days. And 365th day, can you see, if they meet on Sunday, then 1 year is 364, then 365th day will be Sunday. So my 365th day will be Sunday. I need which day? 360th. That is the next day they will meet. Correct? So 364 will be Saturday. 363 will be Friday. 362nd day will be Thursday, and 361st day will be Wednesday. So this is the day they'll meet. A good question, I would say. A good question, because after meeting first on Sunday, they will then meet on this particular day, which is Wednesday. Okay. Let's go to the next question. Now X said to Y, at the time of your birth, I was twice as old as you are at present. See, X and 2X, they get added and become 3X. So be very careful as to what ratio you take for the two ages. So X is saying to Y, at the time of your birth, if the present, sorry, I was twice as old as you are at present. So this will be, okay, we will not take 3x because x is already there. So let's take 3a and this will be a. So the ages will be 3a and a. Now if the present age of a is 42 years, okay, so 3a is 42 years. It's fine. So 3a is 42, which implies what will be a? A will be 42 upon 3, which is what? 114. Is this clear? So what will be the ages or ages of x and y? 42 and 14. Now 8 years ago, the age of x was 5 times the age of y. 8 years ago. So let us take the first statement. 8 years ago. So this will become 14 minus 8. 8 years, right? So how much will this be? 6. And this will be 42 minus 8. This will be 34. Then see here, the age of x was 5 times. No, 6 5s are 30. It is not 5 times. So this statement is wrong. Let's go to the question number 2. After 14 years, so let's add 14 first. So 14 plus 14 will become 28. 42 plus 14 will become 56. Yes. The age of x would be 2 times. This is correct, right? So 28 into 2 is 56. So this answer is correct. This answer is correct. So answer for this question would be B only. Sorry, 2 only, and that is option B. Next, now this is one interesting question. If you have played chess sometimes in your life, you know this question, you might have been helped in this question. Let us see how. On a chessboard, in how many different ways can 6 consecutive squares be chosen along the diagonals, along a straight path? Now if you see here, there are 2 diagonals in the board of chess, correct? And there are how many? 8 squares. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, so let me rub this now, because I have to show you filling of the boxes now. Then the question demands, on a chessboard, in how many different ways can 6 consecutive squares? So I have to choose consecutive squares, right? So see, first I'll choose, okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6. I'll choose these 6 first. Then it says, then see, second combination can be this. I'll start from this square and go up to 8. So this can be the second combination, correct? Then third combination can be, I'll go from 3rd to 8. Can you see, this can be third combination. So along this diagonal I can have 3 distinct combinations. Please remember that if I start from here again, I'll get the same consecutive numbers. So that will be repetition. Don't do that. Fine. So from this diagonal I'll get 3. Similarly from this diagonal I'll get 3. So a total of 6. So the answer here would be a total of 6. So I'll get a total of 6 consecutive squares that can be chosen. Now let's go to the next question. Now there are 6 persons arranged in a row. There are 6 persons arranged in a row. Another person has to shake hands with 3 of them. Okay, so let me put 3 persons. I can take A, B, C, D, E, F. Let me also number them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now see the conditions. Any person has to shake hands with 3 of them, so that he should not shake hands with 2 consecutive persons. So the condition is, let us say a person P comes. Now he will shake hands with let us say any of these persons, but they should not be consecutive. Okay, so if he is shaking with A, then he cannot shake with B. So obviously he'll shake with C. And he cannot shake with D, so he'll come here. So this is my first possible combination. Let me start with A again. E can shake with C. D is not possible. E we have already covered, so this can be another combination. Okay. Third combination is he'll not shake with B. C we have already covered. Let's go with D. Now, but once he shakes with D, he cannot shake with E. So this is another combination. Correct. Now A is over, right? So let's go to B. So if we start with B, C cannot be done. Let's go with D. After D we cannot have E, so it can only be F. Now, any other combination is not possible. So there will be a total of 4 combinations. There will be a total of 4 combinations. Answer is P. Next question. This is again applied and a very good question. See now, half of the villagers of a certain village have their own houses. So let me start. Now houses is, let us say there are 100 total of 100 villagers. So 50 have their houses. Now 1/5 of the villagers cultivate paddy. 1/5 is 20%, right? So 1 by 5, I'll put paddy. 20 will come here. Now 1/3 of the villagers are literate. So literate is 33. Then 4/5 of the villagers are under 25 years of age. 4/5 is 80%, and let me call them young people. There are 80 young people in the village. See now, which of the following statements is certainly correct? All the villagers who have their houses are literate. See, all the houses is 50 and literate is 33. Definitely there are 17 more people who have houses and who are not literate. So this is gone. Now see, in such questions, whenever you see something like some, see here we have only. So probably this is going to be wrong. No villager, this is going to be wrong. All villagers, this is also going to be wrong. But if you see some, just be alert that this can be one of the higher probable answers of this question. Okay, so some villagers under 25 years of age are literate. Some villagers under 25, this segment, are literate. It is possible. Literate is 33. Some can be literate, so definitely this is possible. Let us try the other options. Only half of the villagers who cultivate paddy are literate. Now this we don't know, right? Because 11 can be literate, 12 can be literate, 13 can be literate. So this cannot be said with certainty. No villager under 25 years of age has his own house. This is technically not possible because 50 people have their houses, so even if 20 go here, 30 will still be there. So this is technically not possible. So the only option is P. Option P. Now let's go to the next question. This is a good question. In exam, see, this is a calculation intensive question, and unless you are really confident of mathematics, this question should be taken up in the second round. Let's start. So 3p, 4p, pp, pp is what? RQ2. Now if I add them, I will get 4p. Now can you see something? 4p, the units digit, it should give you 2. Now what are the possible values of p which will give a units digit of 2? See, it can be 4 into 3 or 4 into 8 for the 32. Now these are the only possible values of p for which this p will give you 2. I hope you can understand this, right? So in this case, p can be either 3 or 8. This is something I've deduced from the addition of units places. Okay, so let's proceed forward. So how can I write this equation now? So p can be 3 or p can be 8. Now let me put it here. P can be 3 or P can be 8. See, the first number is 3P, so this becomes 33. Next is 4P, this becomes 43. Next is PP, this becomes 33. Next is again PP, this becomes 33. Now when P is 8, we will get 38. Then 4P is 48. Then PP is 88 and 88. Now, what are the sum of these numbers? So 3 4s are 12. You see, we have to get 2 in units places. This is done, right? So this is fixed. So we'll get 4 3s are 12. See here, now you get 1 carry. 4 4s are 8 and 8 plus this is 9. Correct? 3 plus 6 3 plus 3 6 plus 3 9 plus you'll get 5 here. 9 plus 5 is 14. So you get 142. So this is 142. Now add up here. 8 4s are 32. So 2 3 goes carry. Okay. 8 2s are 16. 16 plus 4 is 20 and then 6 262. So these are the possible sums. Why are we doing this? Because we have to find arithmetic mean of all such possible sums. So I now have the possible sums. What will be the arithmetic mean? Arithmetic mean will be 142 plus 262. That is, okay, let me rub this part. So this will be 404. So 404 upon 2, which is what? 202. So my answer is C, 202. Now this is a good question, a typical series question. Whenever you see a question like this, you should infer that these are a series, two series which have been taken in conjunction. Can you see? Luckily for us, the question itself says so much. See the question. Replace the incorrect term by correct term in the given sequence, where odd and even terms follow the same pattern. Now they have already given you that they follow the same pattern. So let us try for the odd. See, this is 3 plus, this is the difference between these two is 4. The difference here is 6. The difference here is 3 plus 8. Now the difference here is 10. Here it is 12. Can you see? So definitely we should have the same pattern. So 12 here, 10 here, 8 over here, 6 over here. So see this pattern. Next should be 4. So this should be 0. I hope you can understand this. So this is a simple question where you have to find the mistake in the series, and the answer here would be 0. That is option A. Now such questions were practiced in the class. This is a good question. It uses good concepts and good applied knowledge. See, now in the English alphabet, the first 4 letters are written in the opposite order. So what it means is, if this is the ABCD, they will be written in the opposite order. So we have to group them in sets of 4 and then write them in the reverse order. So this will become D, C, B, A. This will become H, G, F, E. Correct? So this is the pattern that these numbers will follow. Now let us read the question. And the next 4 letters are written in opposite order, and so on. Okay. And the letter at the end of Y and Z. See, why Y and Z? Because we know there are 26 letters, and since we are dividing them in groups of 4, last group will end at 24. So 25 and 26 will be left out. So the question is trying to tell you that when Y and Z are left out, they will be reversed within themselves. That's all. They are interchanged, right? Now which will be the 4th letter? Now they want to know which will be the 4th letter to the right of 13th letter. To the right of 13th letter. That means that I don't need to bother for the first 12 letters, because they are not even asking you, right? So luckily for me, here I am saved. Now if you remember, we had discussed EJOTY, EJOTY. Okay, why this is important is, see, from 13th, they want to know from 13th, fourth letter from 13, so that will come out to be 13 plus 4, which is what, 17. Okay, which is what, 17. So ideally the 17th letter will be Q. How do we get this? We know O is 15, so after O we get P, which is 16, and after Q we get after P we get Q, which is 17. And since we are dealing with tables of 4, we will know that after P we have to reverse these numbers. So how will they be written? They will be written like this. We have to reverse these letters. So this will be T, S, R, Q. Can you see this? This will be T, S, R, Q. So 17th letter will now be T. Okay. See, to get it directly, what you can also do is, see, just try to observe this pattern. They want you to find fourth letter to the right of 13th letter. So 13 plus 4, 17 is what they want, correct? Now we know that after 16 the letters will reverse. We know that after 16 the letters will reverse, and 20th letter will actually become 17th letter, correct? You can see this here also. 20th letter will become 17th letter, and we know 20th letter from this sequence EJOTY that it is T itself. So using some mental calculation, this can also be done without using pen and paper. But yes, this coming up to this level will require some proficiency. But this was definitely a doable question. The answer here would be T. Let's go to the next question. This is a good question, a question of mirror images. Now, images of consonants of the English alphabet are observed in a mirror. Fine. What is the number of images of these which do not look like original shapes? Now, we know that English alphabets can be divided into consonants and vowels. This is the first thing you should understand. And how many vowels are there? A, E, I, O, Q. So which is 5, and how many consonants are there? 21. This is the first thing you have to remember. Now it is, see, how many letters, for how many letters does the mirror image look same? In the exam, if this sort of thing you have not practiced in class, and if you have time, this question can still be solved. If you just write down letters from A to Z, you can easily observe that A will remain the same, correct? H and I will remain the same. Okay. M will remain the same. O will remain the same. T will remain the same. U will remain the same. V same. W same. X same, and Y will remain same. And you see, so these are the number of letters which will remain the same. Now within these I have to cancel out A, E, I, O, U, right? The vowels have to be removed. So I'll cancel this out. A, I'll cancel I, O, A, E, I, O, U. I'll cancel these out. Now let us find out how many are left. Now, H is left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Can you see? 7 are left behind. Now 7, these look the same. Now what the question demands is the ones that do not look like their original shape. So that would be 21 minus 7, which is how much? 14. Which is how much? 14. Okay. So the answer would be B. Now last question for the day. This is a fairly simple question. M, now let us see from here itself. Can you see? After M, just a minute. So M to L is -1, correct? So in this case, first is -1, -1. A to B is +1. Okay, T to S again -1, then +1. So this is the simple series that will go on. So in this case, the first letter would be from chemistry. First letter will be C-1, which is B. So this goes away and this goes away. Okay. Now in this case, let us find out the first uncommon term, and that will be my answer. So B is same, here B is same, I is same, I is same, D is same, D is same. Now see here, L and N are different. This is the fourth letter. This is the fourth letter. So -1 plus 1, -1 plus 1. So after M, now see here, can you see from here? After M you will get N. So the answer should have N. This is the answer. Fairly simple one, right? So if you have practiced these questions, this question is a fairly simple one. Now with this we have covered most of the important CSAT questions, almost quant questions. And now when it comes to reading comprehension, this year the questions were tough. We will try to come up with a series for reading comprehension where we'll discuss the questions for reading comprehension. I hope you guys have done extremely well. I hope all of you guys clear this exam and become an officer as soon as possible. All the best, guys.